In the Green Lantern series, Gauntlet, the last of the Guardians from the Green Lantern Corps, is locked in a devastating battle with Kilowog as Parallax seems to be orchestrating a lot of this. Now, Gauntlet can crack a planet in half with a thought, but Kilowog's not backing down as he tells the Guardian, "What's yours is now mine." As Gauntlet and Kilowog get ready to clash, the air gets hot and the wind stops, and there's silence until a breath of air leaves Kilowog's nostrils like some wild, hungry beast. Kilowog raises his hand and shoots a devastating stream of green energy at the Guardian, but Gauntlet just stands there as Gauntlet is unfazed. Gauntlet would raise his hand and reflect devastating chains of green energy right back at Kilowog, pushing the lantern back. As Kilowog shoots another devastating stream of green energy at Gauntlet, shrapnel flies through the air, and Kyle Rayner is forced to use his ring to protect himself. The electrical charge travels up his arm, right through his heart, and into his soul, but he fights it off. Nevertheless, he still sees visions of Guy Gardner, the man that was tapped to replace Hal Jordan. He also sees visions of the Justice League as they've all been felled by John Stewart, as John has also fallen victim to Parallax's corruption. But at the same time that's going on, the manifestation of Hal Jordan finds himself on the outskirts of Coast City as he sees a brilliant green light in the distance. Suddenly, Hal finds himself in the middle of an empty city as he walks up to what appears to be his old apartment complex. As Hal walks upstairs, he has visions of his landlord that would berate him for bringing ladies home late night. But as Hal gets closer to his apartment, he sees a brilliant green light gleaming through the cracks in the door. Hal finds the Green Lantern power battery sitting inside that's seemingly causing a lot of this, but as Hal picks up the power battery and looks at his reflection, he sees his image in the form of Parallax. But elsewhere, as Gauntlet is still going at it with Kilowog, he tells Kyle Rayner to leave with the body of Hal Jordan. Kyle Rayner explains that John Stewart and Guy Gardner are afflicted just like Kilowog, and he hopes things get better. But Gauntlet tells Kyle that hope is meaningless against fear. Willpower is the only weapon. As Kyle Rayner is teleported to the JLA watchtower, he finds the place in complete disarray. Kyle Rayner finds Martian Manhunter, Mr. Terrific, and Green Arrow on the floor, but luckily they're still alive. Kyle would ask Green Arrow what happened here, and Green Arrow would tell Kyle Rayner that Guy Gardner happened. But Green Arrow is surprised when he sees the body of Hal Jordan. But elsewhere in Coast City, Hal Jordan is confused as he doesn't understand why the persona of Parallax is manifesting right now. But Parallax tells Hal it's because he's part of him as he tries to claw his way free. But the Spectre, the spirit of vengeance, would manifest and attempt to suppress Parallax, seeing as Hal Jordan has Parallax and the Spectre inside of him. The Spectre would struggle with Parallax, but eventually he suppresses him as he tells Hal Jordan it's time that he learned the truth. Meanwhile, back at the JLA Watchtower, Kyle Rayner would fill Green Arrow in about the power of their Green Lantern rings. He tells Green Arrow that the central battery collects willpower from every living being across the universe. Furthermore, that willpower is converted to energy and amplified 1,000,000 times over. He tells Green Arrow that when he was on the 10th planet from the sun of Paugus, he met some strange beings that were terrified when they seen his Green Lantern ring. One of the oldest ones explained to Kyle that the universe is said to end at the hands of Parallax. You see, Parallax is a yellow entity that was made of living fear. Parallax would cast fear in everything he came across, and as a result, civilizations would destroy themselves simply out of paranoia. All that accumulated fear would be eaten by the creature known as Parallax. Parallax threatened to consume the universe as he wanted to infect every living creature with fear, as fear leads to violence, and violence leads to more fear. This would create an endless loop of death and destruction that would keep feeding the creature for all eternity. But the Guardians of the Universe forged the central power battery, and that battery would gather willpower in order to combat Parallax's fear. Parallax would be imprisoned in the power battery and put in a comatose state where he slept for all millennia. But one day, Parallax would wake up, weak and hungry, and he would need someone that could help him escape. Parallax would unfortunately find Hal Jordan. Since Parallax was imprisoned in the power battery, it's suspected that his tendrils leaked through Hal Jordan's ring in order to weaken his willpower. The first signs are when Hal Jordan's hairs start growing gray, as it's the first thing to happen when you're struck by overwhelming fear. Months later, Mongol would destroy Coast City, and everyone that Hal Jordan knew would be dead. These traumatic events would be more than enough for Parallax to get a foothold inside Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan would misuse the power of the Green Lantern ring to recreate Coast City, but this would anger the Guardians and they would threaten to strip him of his Green Lantern power. So Hal Jordan did what any desperate and terrified man would do. He fought back. Hal Jordan would make his way to the planet Oa, fighting many of his Green Lantern comrades on the way. The Guardians had imprisoned Sinestro inside the power battery months earlier, but they would free him in order to combat Hal Jordan. Now, this turned out to be a horrible idea as Hal Jordan broke Sinestro's neck. Hal would then go on to destroy the power battery and take all the power for himself, not even realizing he freed Parallax. Parallax would graft himself onto Hal Jordan's soul, and Hal would commit heinous acts, even fighting his own friends. But although he was still under the influence of Parallax, Hal Jordan would sacrifice his life to relight the sun and save all life on Earth. But even this was only a momentary glimpse of the real man shining through. Now, at the same time all this is going on, the Spectre is explaining the same exact thing to Hal Jordan in Coast City, but it's already too late as Parallax has control of the Spectre. Parallax would claw his way free, quite literally ripping through Hal Jordan's skin as Parallax is free once more. Back at the JLA watchtower, Kyle Rayner puts his hand on Green Arrow's shoulder, but Arrow tells Kyle not to touch him as he's still processing everything he was just told. Now, Arrow has two questions. If Parallax needed a host, why would he choose Hal Jordan out of millions of people? And then on top of that, if Parallax was asleep, how did he wake up in the first place? But both those questions are seemingly answered as they're suddenly pelted with yellow arrows and they turn to see none other than Sinestro, who's infused with the yellow aura, and two skeleton hands drawing down on them with the bow and arrow. To be continued.